I was never a classroom teacher, but I do hear that there's a quiet coyote, maybe?
Oh,
Does that
no,
work?
these guys are way too old for that. Board meeting. Let's go. We're starting, Lewins. Come on.
We're gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you all very much for being here. We are called to order at 6:31 on Wednesday, April 2nd. And our first order of business is public comment. I want to say just a little bit of a preamble for public comment. We thank every one of you for being here and for the folks online who wish to chime in. I myself am not a very comfortable public speaker, so I know that it can be a little anxiety producing to get up in front of the mic and be on video. So we really appreciate the effort everyone's making to be here and share their thoughts with the board. This is a time for the board to hear from the public, and we don't respond during public comment. We take in the feedback and we use it to help us make. Oh, then that would, I'm not on Zoom. Wait, is someone on Zoom? And if we have a significant number of people on the speakers list, I'm going to ask folks to keep it to 2 minutes because we have a very full agenda tonight and we want to be able to hear from as many folks as possible. And that is the reason that we would limit the amount of time each person has. And we're once again very grateful for you all to be here. So with that, why don't we hear from folks, or just like a raise of hands, who would like to speak during public comment? So we've got 3 in the room, and you can change your mind later. That's no problem. Do we have folks online?
Any folks online want to?
I think you just use the raise hand function there, right?
So far, no.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll start. I saw Eli raise his hand first, so come on up to the mic. And when you do come up, please remember to state your name for the record. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eli Rosenberg. I have children here. I live here. I pay taxes here. I teach here. I love here, and I voted for you, and I support you completely. I appreciate your time. I love this district. I love what I've done, and I love what I currently do here, as you hear later. I believe in our mission, and I have given my time, paid and unpaid, to advance our schools for decades. Friday, other teachers and I will be selling cookies at Bingo Night fundraiser for the 8th grade trip. This coming Saturday, other teachers and I will be at Vermont History Day at St. Michael's College supporting our students. To say nothing of last Sunday when other teachers and I woke up before 5 a.m. to get to a conference on the new art and science of teaching. This is my profession and my passion, and I am not alone. This is an exceptional school district, strong community support for our schools, top ratings in the state for student test scores, support for national board and other indicators of teacher excellence. When I came here from Hazen in 2002, it was a tidy raise. Now, as Joe and others have brought to your attention, that raise is gone. Instead, I can take a job in 3 other schools in Washington County alone and get a more than tidy raise. More than that if I go to Lamoille, Chittenden, or Addison, where I grew up. This is important because I can see in the distance the point at which my retirement income will be set. There are other veteran teachers who see this and are talking about or have already left this district. I am alarmed and I'm upset about that, where I find myself. To do the things we want to do, we need these veteran teachers. We tell ourselves that our culture is strong, our community is supportive, but honestly, this is an incredibly complex and demanding job, and it cannot be done well if great teachers pass us by. Put another way, we cannot get the best teachers with the worst salary scale. To some extent, we can negotiate better working conditions and other reasons to stay, but please understand, the single greatest factor in education is still teacher quality and engagement. You, the caretakers of our district, have opportunity to set a fair, fact-based contract, and even more, to draw and keep great teachers here. I thank you for your support. And I mean that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shannon McIntyre. I have been a Montpelier resident for about 12 years. I have 3 children, the eldest of whom is a second grader at UES. I am going to keep it really simple. I'm here to support the principal's proposal to have a cell-free school day. I think it's a great proposal. And I hope the middle school moves in the same direction. And I am really psyched to imagine the culture kind of shifting so that by the time my kids come to this school, they can have a whole day where they're separated from the temptations and all of the challenges of the constant interruptions of cell phones. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Liza Earl Centers, and I live here in Montpelier. I have 2 stepsons who are recent graduates, and a daughter who's in the middle school. And just again, want to thank Jason and the team of teachers and students and parents who helped create the plan that he's going to present to you for a personal device-free school day. I know my husband and I had pretty strict limits on our boys' cell phone use, but they would be like, I need to take my phone to school for after school. And I think their time at school actually created more cell phone use because it wasn't as strict as we were at home. So I think it's great that parents who are trying to not create that constant go-to throughout the day will know that at school it's echoing that plan too. I just emailed you all a link to Harwood Union's family newsletter that went out on Friday. I spent Thursday afternoon interviewing teachers there of how the phone-free policy is going for them this year, and they were all thrilled to state that every academic measure that they looked at first semester this year to first semester last year has risen for student academic performance. They wanted to say it's not the only thing they changed this school year, so it's not the one variable, but they're feeling really excited that the phone-free policy is working for increasing academic focus. And everyone there was so thrilled at how much more student connection there is. Students in the hallway are loud. Some teachers said they just go out in the hallway twice a day to just hear the students talking with each other. One teacher said she was going to retire last year, and when she heard their school was going phone-free, she decided not to. And it's been the best year she's had teaching there because of that policy. They were so tired of phones interrupting the school day. They said students were really not present in class. They had a real challenge of students wanting to meet up with other students during class time. Or students would arrive to class but hadn't used the bathroom because they had used that time to check their social media. So students just physically present in the classroom more. And the other thing I emailed you is a link to just a few days ago, the National Association of School Resource Officers. So the staff people in charge of school security in schools around the country, not so much here in Vermont, but they endorsed a policy strict like this one where students don't have their phones on them because of how much distraction it causes during school emergencies, that you want students paying attention to the adults and also to control rumors spreading. When our stepson was in the fake school shooter share 2 years ago, he said that the scariest part was students were texting that 2 students had been shot and there wasn't even a shooter in the building. So that was sort of what caused more trauma than the lockdown. Libby's updates by email were really clear and fact-based, and we just were so appreciative of those as the form of communication. And if students hadn't had their cell phones to text, I think a lot of the scare would have been avoided. So thank you so much. Thank you, Jason, and to the teachers. Thanks for being here. I hope, like Shannon, that the policy can become K through 12.
My name's Rima Carlson. I'm a family physician at the Montpelier Integrative Family Health, and I just wanted to speak on behalf of the medical community in Montpelier. This fall, I helped man a table at the Fall Festival about phone-free schools, and around that time, I kind of pulled all of my colleagues in the office, how they felt about, what do you think about phone-free schools? And it was unanimous. Every single one of us thought it would be really helpful in our jobs each day. I've been in Montpelier for 15 years and I see age 0 to whenever. And in the past 15 years, I've seen an incredible increase in mental health issues in adolescents and young children, to the point that I'm not trained to manage their problems. And we don't have the resources in this community really to take care of complex mental health issues in young children and adolescents. And so obviously mental health is a very complicated issue, and there's lots of things that play into that. But I'm convinced, especially with the more recent studies, that phone use and the way they are designed are very damaging to the developing brain. And so I think we are all in support of this phone-free day in Montpelier and hopefully in the state someday.
I'm Nancy Chickering. I wasn't actually planning on speaking, but I'm also a physician. I appreciate Rima's point and totally underscore that. But I'm speaking as the mother of a child who took his life. 10 years ago, he went to Montpelier High and he went out to Westminster College. And he was just of the age where cell phones dominated those last few years in high school. And I just think I got to see the difference. He was a bullied kid here. I was in the principal's office many a time trying to help with decreasing bullying. And I just want to say that cell phones and bullying are a really bad combination. So I would love to see cell phone free school. And thanks, Jason, for bringing that.
I don't see any hands up. No.
Okay. Thanks again, everyone who came forward to share your thoughts, and everybody for being here tonight. Our next order of business is the consent agenda, which is where we pass, accept, or approve just some of the really boring, mundane business of the board, just to get it all done and save us a bit of time.
Can't believe you call my superintendent report mundane and boring.
Mundane and boring. It's lumped in there with the rest of it.
Jim never said that.
Man, doing great. It's meeting number 2, doing great. We do have one thing to add verbally to the consent agenda. So if someone is ready to make a motion with that addition, I would entertain it.
I can do that. I move that we approve the consent agenda with the addition as requested from Mike Berry regarding the Power School lawsuit. Specifically, I move to approve the consent agenda, including the addition of the approval of the legal services agreement with France Law Group for purposes of Power School data breach litigation.
Thanks, Jim. Second. Any discussion?
Can we pull that item off the consent agenda?
Sure, which is something that I forgot to mention, board members can do. We can pull that item off the consent agenda for board, just further discussion,
Yeah.
Tim? Okay, I'm gonna note that let's do that then after we have the student presentation and the cell phone free school presentation. Okay, legal agreement. I'm writing it up.
But I can withdraw my motion.
Sure, yeah, sure. That's probably the cleanest way to do it.
I move the consent agenda.
As it was publicized. Okay,
Second.
second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Great. Then we're going to turn it over to Eli Rosenberg and our students from MSMS. We're so excited you're here. Tell us about the Innovation Lab. Yes, if you don't speak into that mic, then the folks at home can't hear you.
And we will share this screen on Zoom,
Great.
which will also come up here.
Yep.
Okay. Students.
Make sure you introduce these intelligent young humans who are with us tonight.
Thank you for having us here. My name is Eli Rosenberg, and I work at the Main Street Middle School Innovation Lab. Our mission is to have every student, every grade, every year engage in solving hands-on, STEAM-driven, collaborative learning problems. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Sophia Ridge. I'm an 8th grader at Main Street.
Nice and
Middle
loud,
School.
kiddo.
I'm Sophia Ridge. I'm an 8th grader at Main Street Middle School.
I'm Elias Heath. I'm also an 8th grader at Main Street Middle School.
I'm Will Duggan. I'm also an 8th grader at Main Street Middle School.
These students were not coerced, bribed, or otherwise promised anything at all.
Not even the chocolate?
No, not even the chocolate.
Maybe you have chocolate.
I'll talk a little bit about background, but really the story is yours to tell. This is sort of like Harper's Index, iLab Index. This gives you a little bit of a weird snapshot of what we do. Over the last 2.5 years, we've found about $50,000 worth of grant funded money from many of the organizations, which you see along the bottom, to fill what was a 115-year-old room with more than just cafeteria tables and chairs. We'll show you inside. These guys will give you a tour, but it's a pretty amazing place. 8th graders, like the ones we have here, have a system which they'll describe to make things like laser cut pint glasses. For example, today we gave out 14 of them to our instructional assistants because this is the Instructional Assistant Appreciation Week. The glasses were purchased with a grant from the Vermont NEA to build our morale as proposed by us. We make cardboard. Yeah, and would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Case Finney, and I'm part of Mr. Rosenberg's Innovation Lab curriculum.
Yay. Best part. We make cardboard props, swords, shields, crowns, and other things for a gigantic game, which we call Ruler, which is like rock, paper, scissors, but capture the flag size. And it's an excellent way to measure things and make things and also run around. It's perfect for middle school. We have in the 5th grade, 26 Edison robots. Every kid learns robots in every class, every delightful 5th grader based on really demand. When I said we have a robotics team and we're limited to 10 kids and 47 5th grade parents said my kid would like that, it was really clear it needed to be part of the curriculum. We have MRPS staff cross-trained in skills and knowledge through our district's Southern New Hampshire University credit-bearing class program, and also Generator Makerspace has, through me and other instructors, trained people. The 9 folks across our district have participated in that. And 5 students, not these 5, another 5 last spring presented at Dynamic Landscapes on our mission to folks from across the state. So that's the outlines of the elephant. If you sort of think of it like that, there's a lot of different parts to it, but it's really founded on 3 pillars. Social mission. We make things that make a difference. What we make really has a client. We're a client-facing organization. We think about who we're making things for, even 5th graders. We use design thinking and we use crafting and making tools and skills. Those little orange things on the bottom, those are the Edison robots, by the way. Super friendly, really good for 5th graders. If you go through iLab in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you're likely to, in one or another way, it's sort of a salad bar, go to different types of high school or other secondary opportunities, some of which like clubs and electives, like the masked stage crew or high school robotics team, are not large, others of which are really large. And we know that a very large majority of our students engage in one or another type of CBL or flexible pathway, many of which are inspired by the things that we do and make in one way or another, to say nothing of shop, engineering and science, math, computer programming, and the arts program. And students are introduced to this concept. There are many different ways in which you can go from this experience to leverage what you do and be passionate about it. So here's a walk through the room, if you wanna.
Can I go up to the board?
Uh,
Should we, or-
well, let's stay here and talk, but
Yeah.
you can refer to the
Yeah,
arrows and
that's
describe what we see. That's
Okay.
okay.
So all the way on the left is our project wall. There like teachers and other people can like request projects. Where in our class we will have time to do those projects. Yeah.
Give an example, maybe.
Oh yeah, an example. So yeah, so we a fifth grade classroom had like their team mascot was like the classy pugs. So we made like mugs with vinyl stickers on them that had like pug faces on them and said classy pugs.
You had like a little bow tie.
Yeah, they had little bow ties and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Okay, so then we have the table in the picture. It is like super nice and it has like multiple layers of like wood. With like it has like a hollow compartment with like a bunch of Legos for like innovative designs and stuff. And they are like
It was made by just students.
yeah, much more than just a table. Will.
Okay, so skipping over the one pointing at the shelf, the laser cutter, it laser cuts wood, it etches into the pint glasses, it does a lot of things. And it's a really helpful tool when you want to create something out of wood, because instead of just sawing it, you can just put it into the laser cutter and it'll come out in 3 minutes. It was a very crucial piece of equipment when we worked on
Some of our
projects, specifically a slot machine for elementary school kids.
Yeah, we'll learn about that later.
We'll
That,
discuss
that's
that.
not to say we don't have power tools,
Yeah,
and
but
hand tools. We do have woodworking tools and other kinds of things as well.
And just to be clear, gambling is not part of our elementary school curriculum.
No,
No.
absolutely not. No, yes.
I don't know what the Duggins are doing with their kids, but.
All right. Okay, so there's like four different 3D print. Yeah, there's three different 3D printers. Each of them like you can have like 3 different projects going at the same time that kids can design on a software that we practice using in class. So it's really like nice to have them there because you can kind of like make like whatever you want like with them, and it's like super useful for like if you're like doing like a project where it's like hard to get like a certain piece or something, you can like 3D print it.
What's the last thing you did 3D printed?
What? Oh yeah, we 3D printed like a case for some like technology that you can like stack them together with Raspberry Pis. They're like mini computers. And then the 3D printers also have different colors that you can use for make them look nicer.
Yeah, that cabinet in the middle contains a lot of microelectronics. So you can take all these little components like individual wires and you can hook them together to make circuits. And they were used a lot in projects for the Maker Faire, which we'll discuss later.
And over there on the far right, that's the vinyl cutter. Where we cut vinyl and some of it is vinyl where we can make stickers with it. And sticky and we can put it on walls and bumper stickers, stuff like that. And some of it is t-shirt vinyl, which means we can use a heat transfer, which is to the left of the laser, to the left of the 3D printer, but you can't see it here. And we can use that to press on the design that we made on the vinyl cutter to make a cool t-shirt design.
When we engage in a set of tools like the vinyl cutter, we'll start with a simple project for me that demonstrates competency. For example, first, since we have these wonderful brick walls, you have to make a brick sticker and it fits. You have to measure the brick. There's some very basic specifications, including your name, some icon that reflects some characteristic of yourself, and then the sticker goes on the wall and stays up forever. You leave your mark. And then something for yourself, a small gift, maybe a pint glass, maybe a t-shirt. It's very creative t-shirts or other types of small gifts. And then the third level is like a hero project, in this case for another class. If it, for example, we're 3D printing, our students, there are a lot of kids who want to make tiny little pieces of plastic that are kind of junky, but actually, ideally, we have a very specific set of goals. And for example, in the 7th grade, one of the tasks is to create a series of game pieces for a game that's played in 6th grade. It's better than playing with a little piece of paper. You actually have manipulative pieces. And again, the client, the 6th grader, has very specific needs. It can't break, it has to be palm size, some facets of design that are embedded in the process. In fifth grade, we'll walk through the years. I'll talk about fifth and sixth grade, and then we'll move up to seventh and eighth grade. In fifth grade, students come in and there are a range of different projects. What you see here is a series of skills embedded in one overarching theme. Some of you probably know what hex bugs are, these tiny little vibrating toys. On the left, you see a toothbrush with a tiny little motor, a pager motor and a battery. When wired together and properly trimmed, it moves and vibrates around. On the right, you see students who have first created a blueprint, measured it out, scaled it up, and then used cardboard for a draft and created then a house, a habitat for hex bugs. These hex bugs are their clients. What would a hex bug like? Imagine what their behaviors are, imagine their size, their needs, and it's both engaging and very concrete. It's very easy to understand. It also is very forgiving. The work that we put in front of students in fifth grade is inherently flawed. None of these things work well. It's really by design. They fail a lot. They fail early. They fail on early in order to succeed faster. And this cycle, this mentality of trying, failing, learning, and repeating, sometimes walking away for a little while, and seeking support and figuring out how that works for yourself is really not only invaluable, but it's something that from fifth grade all the way through eighth grade, we not only preach, but practice. In sixth grade, there are a range of different things that we do. Here's one example of a project. It's integrated into the science curriculum. This is an orrery. It's a device that allows students who are learning about seasons, lunar phases, and eclipses to actually physically show those rather than drawings. It's really, there's a famous video out there in educational lore about Harvard graduates unable to explain why seasons exist. And so we teach that, but more specifically, we have students build machines that model that effectively and allow them to show that, demonstrate that physically in embodied learning. And as pairs of students put these things together, they discuss, but then also get again to, because it's cardboard, fail. And it doesn't work perfectly the first time, and you have to repeat until you get it right. And if you fail a couple of times, you really know it well. In seventh and eighth grade, we have a couple of things. This is the Maker Faire. I'm going to try and play this video for a little bit just to give you a sense of it, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys to explain sort of how it works. Yeah, play the video. That would just kill it. The video's great. It's very sweet. The backstory is that we collaborated with a number of different organizations to put the Maker Faire together. I was Agency of Education STEAM Challenge Grant, and Orca Media paired with us to not only record it, but we measured our success in part by interviewing fourth graders who came over to Main Street Middle School as part of this process. And I want you guys to maybe tell the story of how that worked in this not at all gambling dino casino. Do you want to walk us through what happened? And
So, all like the seventh graders were like given like an objective. Like you have to you kind of just like start off with like ideas, and you got to like just make a project that could like hook the fourth graders when they came over for like a big day. They could hang out and just have fun there, and with like projects that all the students made. So we came up with the idea to make a slot machine. Not for gambling, just a slot machine. And we had a lot of tools that we could use to actually make it happen. And yeah, so then we started to make it. So,
Yeah. Once we figured out what we were going to be making, we started with a proof of concept, and we made a working, like, just small part of it that had the wheels spinning when they pressed the button, and it was just made out of cardboard and held together by a lot of tape.
what was the button attached to? Help us understand.
It was attached to 3 spinning motors, which would spin the wheels, and we had a bunch of dinosaur symbols like a meteor and a volcano and a dinosaur. And we created a little key, so if you spun like 3 of the same thing, you would get a prize and you would win.
yeah.
So yeah, then we made for like our like final one, we started to laser cut pieces of wood so that it wasn't just a piece of cardboard taped together. So that's how we got our final product there. And then we also made sure that the wheels were actually running randomly, because before it was kind of just, it would spin for a certain amount of time and it was not very random. So yeah, that's what we did for like our second draft, basically.
Yeah.
We should mention that there's a microcontroller inside it hooked up to a touch sensor and motors, and they came up with an algorithm that would generate both a random result and also a certain amount of, I mean, what did you put in the code?
So basically it would spin each wheel, it would spin like one after another. So the first wheel would spin for like, I don't know, it was like 2 to 3 seconds, but even that amount of like variation would make it quite random.
Yeah, and then at the end, after we had like our wood together and we had like the circuitry ready, we spray painted the box and like we put some art on it to help embellish the theme of dinosaurs. And then we made a bunch of little dinosaur coins. Like we took like a whole sheet of wood and then we made a bunch of little coins that we would give out to the 5th graders or the 4th graders for them to put into the machine and then press the button and then win more coins.
Yeah, and I would like to mention this was the most popular exhibit at the Maker Faire by far. And we seem to hook the 4th graders.
Yes.
It's essentially we chose 4th graders. 4th graders would be happy if it were literally an empty box and they got to hug you. Not everyone, but like they're really just happy to be there and to find older people who are willing to talk with them and identify with them. They're really easy clients to get to know, and it's May, so they're delightful. And honestly, the fact that they can come and interact with something that's kind of exciting. And we had other things that made it sort of blingy, like necklaces and things that they got to help them stay organized, was both fun for them. But I mean, let me ask you, what did you take away from this process? Like, I put 4th graders in front of you. How'd it go?
It went well. We had a line of people just waiting and we'd give them the coins to put in. One person,
Not gambling.
yeah, one person won big and cleaned us out of our coins. And it was a really cool experience because well, one, we were out of class for most of the day, and 2, we got to talk to all the 4th graders and see what they were all about and watch them try our machine and see that they were actually interested in it.
Yeah,
I think
seeing their reactions was super fun. Like they'd like lose all their coins and then they ask for more and then we'd say no. And then they'd walk away looking sad.
And yeah, one thing that was really helpful from this is I also learned how to use the laser cutting software, and I've been able to use that a lot this year too.
Yeah, so I think something that's important is the skills we learned from this. Like Will learned how to use the laser cutter. He mostly did that, but I also learned how to do it from this experience. And also the idea of trying to make something that fits your clients. Because at first we were just gonna make a non-gambling slot machine with like that. But then we thought of like 4th graders and we were like, oh, what's interesting? Like, yeah, dinosaurs and like dino coins. So,
Yeah, dinosaurs.
And
Let's actually, with that, let's go back. We're gonna watch the beginning of the video without sound. You'll still get the picture. You can see what it's like. It's worth looking at.
Also, some friends of ours filmed it. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, all right, so let's just do it like this. It is inspiring music, just so we're really clear. Great teams of 7th graders came together to build engaging, satisfying, surprising STEAM games. It was a mighty festival for all the 4th graders of Montpelier and Roxbury. This is their story, the story of Maker Faire. We bought a drone. Students wanted a drone. They wanted to not only know how to fly the drone, but they wanted to know how to autonomously program the drone. We got some killer footage. So you can see, this is a lively scene. Lots of different kinds of activities.
Vibes are great. Just imagine Boston blasting on the PA.
Yeah, we had students fill a lot of roles. Some 7th and 8th graders, that's a sort of a buzz wire setup. Some 7th and 8th graders, I'm gonna come right up to about right there. And this is an Orca Media camera. Maybe this one right here, possibly. So here's an interview. We had an interview booth and a bunch of 7th and 8th graders, 7th graders interviewed and asked students what they thought about it. You could volunteer. We gave away mints to encourage 4th graders to if they so chose, talk about it. Then afterwards, we also interviewed each other. The tale of the tape, the review of the video helps us see a lot of not only what the actual Maker Faire is like, but also judge in an entrepreneurial sense, were the trade-offs that we had to make for the different exhibits effective. We had a stamp system where every fourth grader had a card and you could get a stamp. One of the questions was, how do you get a stamp if somebody comes to your yeah, you get coins, but you know, if you played, you get a stamp, or what is it that means that they've succeeded and gotten engaged? So we're gonna move forward to be mindful of time, and I'm just gonna keep going with that. I spent the last 2 summers at Norwich University participating in Gen Cyber, which is a cybersecurity curriculum out of Norwich University's computer science program. I did it. I'm a middle school teacher. The vast majority of people who do it are high school or tech center teachers. I did it because I'm interested, because I have friends who teach in the department, and because I think it's really important for people this age to engage with the kinds of challenges that we face. There are no entry-level cybersecurity jobs, but you can get people interested in it. And what came out of it was a story, because people learn best through a narrative arc called the Scary Tale Mystery. You can see on the left these purple decoder rings. They're actually spinny decoder rings, and one element of cybersecurity is, cryptology and cryptography. And so we put this story together, and about halfway through, as we were taking apart a computer and discussing what it would mean to actually hack inside, these 4 said to me essentially, "Hey, why aren't we actually hacking them?" And I thought to myself, you're absolutely right. If you are the people who are asking that question, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get your name on a list, and there are legal and professional consequences for questions like that you aren't thinking about, but that really you need to know about. So what we need to do is set up a safe environment, an enclosed environment, a virtual environment, at one which I have actually experimented with at Norwich. It's pretty straightforward. It's a pretty easy thing to do. It requires some grant funds because the computers are big and fast. But on the other hand, it's not only possible, but I know people who could do it. And here they are. So what happened next?
Well, we kind of we started off with like little small we kind of just talked about it at the beginning, just about what it was and stuff. And then we kind of we used we took Raspberry Pis, and we kind of experimented with them. I was about to. They're these very small compact computers that they're kind of cheap, and then you can kind of they're old, they're not very fast, but they're small, and we kind of use them and we hook them up to monitors and keyboards, and we kind of just played around with them and stuff.
Yeah,
And then-
and after that, Mr. Rosenberg approached us with the idea of, since he was going to a Gen Cyber Day, in March, a little bit ago, he offered to bring us there, and we accepted. So we went there and we got to take 2 short courses that were an hour each. And it was really interesting because the first one we did was about open source intelligence and just gaining information from public, gaining private information from public information. And the second one was where we actually put fake malware onto a computer, which was very fun.
A virtual computer.
Virtual computer.
Safe, legal.
Safe, legal, yeah.
Safe, legal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was both really fun. We got to choose out of a multitude of different courses. Mr. Rosenberg's was one of them, but we had already done it in class. Yeah.
That's a picture of us inside, sorry.
Go ahead.
That's a picture of us inside of the Norwich server room. Just imagine buzzes and whirs and big fans all over, and
Yeah,
tons of computers and beeping lights.
Mr. Rosenberg
it's
managed
quite
to talk us in there.
Which, just so we're clear, is
Through the back
actually
door.
exactly what we want these people to understand is really dangerous. If you can use social engineering to access, in this case, $1 million worth, or $1 million worth of technology and multi-million dollars worth of data, many millions of dollars worth of data, there's a lesson there. And some of the lesson is, please be on the good side, wear white hats, not black hats. But then another part of the lesson is, for me, this is an illustrative tale of how we work. I get some feedback from some people who are willing to push in a direction, whether it's fifth graders who want to do robotics or eighth graders who want to do hacking. And if there's a really clear path forward and a set of training and skills that really fits, we should do it. And it's built the capacity and the capability of the space remarkably. It's turned people who were maybe sort of alone and feeling isolated into people who feel both unified and a sense of mission. And for us, as a group, it's exciting. I'm going to pivot and ask if you have questions of the students primarily, but I'd be glad to answer any as well. This is unique. There are no other places like this in middle schools that I know of. There are places that do parts of this. There are some high schools that do some parts of this and various different kinds of things, but this is a special place for a small and special city, and we're lucky to be here. And again, thank you for your support. Without you, we couldn't do it. Questions?
If you have questions, I'm gonna have the classroom teacher call on you. So go ahead and direct your questions to the.
Jill.
Thank you guys, it's awesome. So like, what's next? Do you have anything planned this summer or next fall? Are you gonna get to keep doing these
So
things?
You should ask.
there's a summer camp that some of us are signed up for. There's actually 2 different summer camps we're doing. Me and Will are doing one for AI. Well, no,
I'm not doing
I'm
that.
talking about the AI
I
one.
can't do that.
Like an overnight ID Tech camp. Oh, Elias is doing that one too. Yes.
Yeah.
My bad.
Other
I got the 2 confused about like machine learning and AI, where we're gonna get to make a bunch of things, such as like I think we're gonna be able to make an AI robot you can play like rock, paper, scissors with or something. So that would be fun.
And the food there is really good.
Just as a note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're doing another camp, just me and Sophia at Norwich, for cybersecurity, which is gonna be similar to the, I think it's gonna be pretty similar to the Day of Cyber we did, just expanded over a week.
Yeah.
And with paintball.
It'll be fun because we can do penetration testing, and there's paintball. So yeah. And we're also doing stuff at home with our own computers with penetration testing on like virtual computers and stuff.
I gave them a bunch of Raspberry Pis, which are about $50. You have to get your own peripherals, but they're just small computers that you can program to do a wide range of things. And so there are these sort of side projects that you've 3D printed cases for.
Yeah, I took like 4 of them and we're making a cluster of them to do various different things, and we're gonna hook them up together at some point.
Safe and legal things.
Yes.
This is a recurring theme here. Are there other questions?
How long has it taken to get the lab to kind of where it is today, and how long has Maker Faire been hooking 4th graders?
So I 2 3/4 years ago, I walked into a classroom that had some power tools, some rulers, lots of really good paper. There was I brought some things. There were a couple of old 3D printers too, which didn't work, one of which I sent back to the high school. I brought all the robotic stuff. I've coached robotics here since 2002. So we had accumulated a lot of Legos, which is good. And some microcontrollers called Makey-Makeys, which are platforms that let you build physical computing devices. Over the course of the first year, we got a STEAM Challenge grant from the Agency of Education for $25,000, which got us a laser cutter with all the trimmings. We also joined in a community partnership through a 21st Century Workforce Preparation Grant with Generator Makerspace. That's a 3-year grant, which involves both training and another $2,500 worth of materials, all of which went to state-of-the-art bamboo printers, 3D printers. The vinyl cutter came the next year and so we started doing that. First STEAM Challenge grant was built around 8th graders working for a craft fair, and we that year started producing goods for the Solidarity Craft Fair. We now, in addition to the Solidarity Craft Fair, have a memorandum of understanding with the PIE to sell through the website. So we have we're practicing e-commerce slowly and really student forward, with lots of try, fail, learn, and repeat, which is how it should be. The second year, we got another STEAM Challenge grant through the AOE for $15,000, which got us vinyl cutters and a bunch of other materials built around, including video equipment and a bunch of other things built around the around the Maker Faire and which is just a firecracker idea. It's really great. So this May will be our second annual Maker Faire. It's a signal event where the fourth graders walk over, they are welcomed, it's a transition day. They are greeted by eighth graders who then, seventh graders who shake their hands, welcome them, bring them in, give them necklaces, which are color coded to help them know which part of the Maker Faire to go to. The theme is Lost in Time, so there's a narrative. If you create a public space, you need to have, plot, storyline, characters, and atmosphere. So music, big, large physical structures that are kind of awe-inspiring, color, theme, all sort of feed into an emotional thing. And as people walk through the plot line, which is timeline, they interact with the characters, which are the different exhibits that teams of seventh graders are running. So it's really fun and really engaging. Other students at our school get to participate as well at a different time during the day. Of course, they should. And so that added a lot. We've put together a couple of other smaller grants around the cybersecurity virtual lab. The Vermont Academy of Science and Engineering gave us a bunch of microcontroller equipment and sensors, actuators, a whole range of different kinds of things, many of which get built into Maker Faire objects, but they also get used a lot in the History Day projects. Seventh and eighth graders all do History Day projects. It's a really strong component of our middle school education. It's wonderful. And if you want to make an exhibit and you want to laser cut a sign or involve not just an iPad, but something that moves and makes noise when you poke it, we've got that. Or a green screen, a camera, a drone. What do you need? It's an innovation lab. It's really one of those things where most people will walk there and they'll ask for something that I'm not sure. Today I had a sixth grader come in and say, as he's working in art on a mask that's made out of paper mache. No, wait, I think it was plaster. He said, can you 3D print me some really bad teeth? I need to have like janky, like awful looking teeth. And 7 minutes later, we used a couple of pen tools. This is something that they've learned as a seventh grader, but why not teach it to the sixth grader? Because as a seventh grader, the sixth grader will become one of those people that in the classroom is leading others. I can't be everywhere all the time. This is not a stand and deliver curriculum. This is a coaching based evolutionary curriculum. So over 7 minutes, we make a quick design and show them how to put it into the second level software on which slices it and then sends it over to the cutters, to the printers. So that was a very quick moment in time, but it produced terrible teeth, but I know that it'll pay forward. And so as I think about how we've built and upscaled our capacity, there isn't an end to it because the world is a changing place. Some of these things like those little orange Edison computer robots are new. Those bamboo printers are new. There's nothing like them. And if you looked for something like it 3 years ago, you wouldn't have had multi-filament printing unless you wanted to spend a lot of money. So it's an exciting time to have this job. It's an excellent place. There's lots of grant funding for this kind of a place. And it leverages across our entire school, every classroom in one way or another, whether it's, a class mascot or a History Day project or, right. We could go on. It's exciting. I hope my enthusiasm is a little infectious. I want to be mindful of our time. You guys are here for a lot. So
I was just gonna say one last
yeah,
thing
jump in.
about the cybersecurity curriculum. Like, this stuff is gonna be like a huge part of our world in 20 years. And it's good that like generations like us, even if you're not going to careers like in cybersecurity, like I know these guys are probably interested in doing that, but I'm not really. But I think it's really helped me know what's coming and how to be like prepared for it and have a good vocabulary around it. So I think that's a really great thing that we did with Mr. Rosen.
Amen. Right on. Reach, bro. Are there other questions at all? Things that we can tell you about it?
You kind of answered my question before I asked it. I was gonna ask you all how you feel like what you're learning in Innovation Lab is going to be impact you going forward as you grow and learn and move into a career. But you went ahead and read my mind. So if any of the students wanna answer that question, it'd be great. Any other students?
Quick thing about that. I know Case said he's not as interested in going into a job like that, but I know I am, and I think these two maybe are. But yeah, so I think these are really important skills that I can use through the rest of my life. And I want to thank Mr. Rosenberg for giving me all these opportunities.
Not paid. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes. Oh, yes. It's the truth. It's a blessing to be here. I don't take it for granted. And I've found, especially in the wake of the pandemic, that living in gratitude is a really healthy and necessary thing to do. It's inspiring to like see people who want to do stuff and then be pushed by them. We all kind of seek that in one way or another. I don't know what else will happen next. I know that in the next 3 to 5 years, the deck chairs are going to move. The deck may even tilt. It's going to be exciting. And I really recognize how hard a job you have and how hard your decisions are. I lived through many of them in my own ways, multiple ways. This is one of the ways that I keep sane and I hold on to the things that are really important by being both creative and effective in ways that continue to make a difference. And transparently, I tell these people, but really fifth graders can hear it just as clearly, that there is hope, that we can actually make a difference, and that by making things, we make ourselves. We become clearer about what we are, who we are, what we value. And whether it's a History Day project or whatever it is, that's something that as a younger teacher and an earlier person, I wasn't sure about. And I was at the point I was out of the pandemic and I was thinking about science teaching. I was ready to stop. And I owe a tremendous debt to you, Libby, for talking me into this in various ways. And then letting me see and then act on the potential that was there. So it means a lot to me to be here and for all of you. You bet.
Can I add this on a really boring note?
Yeah,
Because I just want to confirm an assumption I have, which is that every student at MSMS takes Innovation Lab at some point, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like the ones who are super interested in.
No,
No.
our mission
This-
is for every
everyone's gotta
student
touch
in
on it.
our mission is for every student in every grade, every year to spend time either in the lab in a class or in the lab in a project, or for me to be in their classroom. And thus far, we have never not done that. Who knows what will happen, but I'm not only wholeheartedly committed to that, but in addition to that, there are additional like pull-out classes, other opportunities that people find to get even farther in for the people who want to go next level. It's not just, yeah, you have to do it. And some kids come to the salad bar, they're like, I only want the cucumbers. I don't know that anybody, because it's a salad bar, literally puts everything on the plate, right? But on the other hand, there are opportunities to go farther and deeper. When we needed to run the Maker Faire, we had a group of kids who ran it. Like, I didn't do it. I said, here's what student leadership looks like. If our social mission is small gifts and big parties, this is the big party. Accept responsibility for how it's going to go. I'm here. We have lots of other people who will help you. But ultimately, I can't do this alone. And without you, it's nothing. Which makes the celebration day itself much, much, much more powerful. So.
Thank
coming,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is our discussion, kicked off by a presentation, I think, of cell phone free schools. Which I think we're inviting Jason to the hot seat. Thanks for being here, Principal Gingold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay, cell phone.
I think this is yet another celebration.
Yes. I agree. Libby, are you gonna
I'll
show
be-
some slides?
I can be Vanna. Yeah.
Thank you.
You.
You only shared it with me as a PDF, so it's gonna look a little different, but that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge and thank the people behind me. I have people behind me. Many of our actually, there's a sign, yes, which I can't really read that, but really Rima and Liza, and I saw Helen, Helen's mom here. Hi, nice to see you. And they're members of our caregiver council, and they spend a tremendous amount of time on this and valuable resources and care and passion. So I just need to thank them publicly for that. And also, Madam Savard is here, representing our staff cell phone committee. So thank you very much. And Matt is on that as well. And I can't see the people online, but I'm imagining hopefully some of our staff is there as well. So just I really appreciate all the work that they did. We got here today because about almost a year ago in May 2024, Harwood kind of said out loud they're going to go cell phone free. And that was not a time for us to declare that. We would have rushed. We would not have been prepared. We would have just kind of come up with a plan that I don't think we would have been able to live through this year. And so we wanted some time to study and figure out what our plan would look like. And so here we go. Ready, Vanna? Thank you. All right. We echoed our plan in the philosophy of take care of yourself, take care of others, and take care of this place. Right? That's what our motto is. There's a beautiful sign out front. We talk about this quite often. And we really believe that, you know, by going device free, it's rooted in this philosophy. All right. Thank you, Libby. And we know we could also do hard things. Way back in 2018, I think the Black Lives Matter flag was raised. In the middle there is students in masks representing the COVID years. And then the July 10th flood, right? We know that we can overcome hard things. And we also know that this will be hard for a lot of people, right? For students, staff, adults. It's not going to be easy, and that we're here together to do this together and come out on the end together. So we had a process. In September, we started with the Caregiver Council. We did a student survey. We did a caregiver survey and a staff survey. And from that, it really gave us a lot of good questions. There were tons of questions by staff, students, and caregivers, and a lot of answers that helped us build our plan. Most of the, I'd say, outcomes from those surveys really helped us build this plan, especially around questions around student safety. And I think Liza spoke to that earlier in public comment. And when there's an incident, how do cell phones interact with that incident? We have a draft letter ready to go to caregivers about what the plan will look like. And the hope would be that once this is all finalized, we'll communicate this out really starting in May, June, so that there's no surprises for everyone, what next year would look like. And also so we could start practicing, not saying we're going to do that every day or anything, but it'd be fun to practice once just for like 5 minutes. Wouldn't it, Amani? Like just walk in and put your phone away and then you can pick it back up and we see what it feels like. So let's go what the plan looks like. So ideally, we have about 415 students, which means we need a place for 415 phones. A couple weeks ago, I was on a webinar watching a school in Ohio, Dunbar, Ohio, I think. And they have about 600 students, and they just have these carts or tables and milk crates and envelopes with every kid's name on them. And the student puts their phone in the envelope and they go on their merry way. We're an open campus, so it makes things a little bit more complicated but as 9th through 12th graders would walk in the lobby, not all 400 walk in at once. It's a pretty staggered morning. We can have those kind of milk crates, envelopes, and folders ready. Everything would be labeled with Amani's name on it. I know you'd be not even here, but it's super excited to participate. And a student would drop their phone in. Then at the end of the day, I think we would split probably like 9th and 10th in the main lobby and 11th, 12th by the gym lobby, because students really do leave more compactly at the end of the day so they could get their phones. And then if you do have a free block, you'd be able to pick up your phone throughout the day, probably just stationed in the office, near my office. We acknowledge that some students have medical needs and need their phones on them, so they would just go in a smaller envelope in their backpack. They'd still have to be on as part of the medical documentation, and that's okay. And we want students who have those medical considerations to have their phone, right? We want to be safe.
Before we go, Jason, I know there's been some comments and concerns about just across the district. Julie is, as we're on procedure here, Julie and her caregiver council and staff are also working on their procedure. So we will be going cell phone free across the district. They have a slightly different setup at the middle school, so theirs will look different. They do an advisory right when the kids get there in the morning, and they do an advisory right at the end of the day. So kids advisors will grab their phones or take their phones in the beginning of the day. Julie's already got the system all set up that she's thinking about with her caregivers. And in addition, in May, she's got a caregiver forum planned with her caregiver council as well. So procedure, I mean, Jason's speaking because he's got the most knowledge and did the work, the hard work with students and caregivers for us. But this, you can imagine the same procedure happening at the middle school as well.
Thank you. We talked about that students could not access their phones on field trips. That's kind of still a big school part of the day. Athletics, students could have, if you're driving in North Country in a yellow bus, that's an 1.5 hour ride, have your phone. That's quite all right, right? And it's after school, not much to do. We've talked a lot about, and we've talked about it a lot this year as well. I've met with all the coaches, both fall, spring, and winter, to try and start weaning us away from social media apps as a way for teams to communicate. Because that's an unfair advantage if your kid doesn't have that app and they can't participate in that group chat. So we're going to continue to work on that. We are an open campus, so that if Miriam has block 3 free and would like your phone and going to get a sandwich at the co-op, please come on down, get your phone. But then when you return for block 4, you just put your phone back into that envelope. And then some students who access dual enrollment courses would need their phone for 2-factor authentication, right? So we'd make that available as well. The fun part, what happens when a student's found with a device? Goes to the office for the rest of the day. Communication home, right? So we're documenting. And if you have a flex schedule, you would not get it back for the rest of the day. And then at the end of the day, you pick it up. And if you're going to be dishonest and put a Walkman or a calculator or some other kind of device or just an empty case into the envelope, you're going to go to jump, what is that? The second offense. And second's pretty similar, except that the phone stays with the administration rather than just in the envelope. We're going to ask a caregiver to come down and pick up your phone for your student at the end of the day. And additional 3 days, the phone is kept with administration versus just in the envelope, more communication home. And then we continue. And third offense follows the same thing, except it's 5 days with the administration. And then at that time, we're also just going to request a meeting with the caregiver and parent and figure out how can we make a better plan and see really what's the root cause of this struggle. We're trying to take this off our staff's plate. We really don't want teachers to have to own this. So as students are coming in the building, right, they're going to put their phones away at the end of the day. And if a staff member notices students with the phone, just report it to us and we'll come deal with it. That's basically what we're going to ask them to do. What's next? We had a presentation to the faculty. They offered some feedback and we updated our draft. We sent it out to caregivers and answered their questions. Tonight is the school board meeting. And then next Monday, we'll hold an open forum. So you would like to come and ask more questions or more comments. And then from there, we'll decide what our next steps are. If we need another community forum or we're just going to continue to move forward. Yeah, we're optimistic, right? See what happens. What could go wrong? So it'll be fun. Questions?
Yeah, why don't we offer questions to Jason and then the board can discuss anything at the board level as well. We got Amani and then Miriam. Questions for her principal.
Hi.
I have a question about smartwatches in general and then personal laptops. As I'm not going to be here, I'm more talking about other people who I've talked to. Like if I were going to be here, my watch, it's an Apple Watch, but for me, a lot of it's the fitness aspects of it, like tracking steps and that throughout the day. Are you okay with devices that are fitness trackers that don't connect to a phone? Or is that?
Yeah. So no texting?
Correct.
Can you text with a non-device?
Well, The thing is, if this is too far away, it
Mhm.
can't unless it has its own phone number.
Then yes,
Okay.
my answer would be yes.
And then computers, the only reason I don't use my school computer is because it's too slow and it doesn't work well for me.
Mhm.
I did not spend a lot of money on this because I wanted to.
Yeah, at this point, we don't have any intention of saying you can't use your school computer. You can't use your own, you can use your own personal device, sorry,
Okay.
right? And, I think there's limitations on that in a way that if you, the student, can't manage your own computer, right, then you might have to use a school device.
What's the intention of having for like the second and third offenses of having the student give the phone to the administration? Like, how is that like
Any
genuine question,
different?
how is that different from just
Yeah,
putting it?
I mean, I think for second semester, 10th, 11th, 12th, if they have privileges and can leave the building, there's a little bit of a difference,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get it back till the end of the day. I think there's a little bit more of conversation happening at that point too. Why is this so hard? What are we struggling for? What's going on here? Not a lot,
Okay.
not a lot. And I think this is a living, breathing document. I think how we start, what data we collect, what we notice, what we feel, what we see in September will probably look different than November. And as we move forward throughout the year, I think things will shift and change. And we'll just keep morphing a little bit. Jake, I'm just going to go around, if that's okay.
Did you, talking to Hardwick or sorry, Harwood or other research, were there things that you felt like other districts were doing that we could do better, or like trouble spots to watch out for?
Sure. So Harwood, our members of our cell phone committee went and visited Harwood, and I think Peoples, I feel like Peoples as well, looking for somebody to acknowledge. And each of those schools are doing it a little differently. Harwood's using the Yonder pouches. I think they spent around $25,000 of ESSER funds to do that. People's is just basically saying, we don't want to see it in the building. If we see it in the building, we're going to take it. Very similar offenses to what we have. And that's that, right? I think what we talked about was we didn't want to spend $25,000, first of all. I think I did a little bit of math that milk crates and files would be about $2,000 because the carts might be the most expensive piece. And what else do we talked about that the People's one might be a little bit more management than we want to do, and a little bit more chasing throughout the day. This student has that, this student has that kind of thing. Trying to get away from the leaving the class for a long period of time to be in the bathroom or the hallway. So that one wasn't good for us. The Harwood Yonder wasn't, I think that was the non-stop right there. In talking to Tim Payne, who's a principal in, I think, Bennington, Brattleboro, down south, they started this as well. And what he would say is in the beginning of the year, he'd have 30 phones in his office around students who really couldn't comply. And then a few weeks later, got down to like 5, 10, and you'd be stuck with like the same 4, right? And then around one of the November breaks or December breaks, you come back, you got to start over a little bit, right? And it might not be 30, but it might be 15, and then back down to your 4, right? And so it's that consistency, getting to the rhythm, starting over and right after, before and after each break. And then it kind of just takes care of itself.
Does a Yonder couch, what makes it worse or better than a folder?
Do you say money? Yes.
I mean, what's the functionality?
I mean, it's a magnetic lock. And so I think there's some piece I'd imagine for the student that they get to keep their phone in their pouch, in their bag for the day. Right. And so I think there's a piece of comfort in that versus in an envelope, let's say in the office.
And somebody else has the power to unlock it.
Yes, there's unlocking stations in the building, and you could also just buy one on Amazon.
Okay.
Or Eli could probably make you one. I would imagine. Or actually, yeah, that's good.
Hi,
I have so many questions and so many things I want to say, but I'll just say I'm really grateful to all of you who put all the work in. I got to kind of like pop into that meeting a month or so ago and hear from our physicians and our guidance counselors and the Harwood teacher. And I just left there feeling so compelled and impressed and like committed. And so I really appreciate it. I think it's fantastic. I definitely have thought of, like, since that first came up, these real world examples of times that it has not really been helpful. And I'll never forget the guidance counselor at the middle school, Jenna Bravacas, saying that when kids are getting texts during the day, it's usually from their parents. And so I have been much better about that as well. And my main concern was always, I can tell what we're experiencing right now puts a whole lot on the teachers, and it feels like they're just like the kids that are really persistent and wear them down. Like the teacher has to spend so much time policing that and not teaching. And so the Harwood teacher who said they are less distracted as an educator because they're not doing this sort of unconscious scan all day, every day. So as adults, we're going to benefit from this change as well. And just like someone was saying earlier, just like the difference in sort of the vibe, I think it's worth it. So yeah, my concern was always like, okay, so the teachers now have to police it. So now there will be this beginning and end of day. That will take work. That will take time, right? Like you said, I think as time goes by, maybe we'll get quicker at it, just like we were with like as Jenna said, we took temperatures for an entire year for kids coming in every morning. So we can do that. And I just want to make sure that as a board member and as a parent, I'm supporting the teachers in making this as easy as and administrators in administering this. So like, you're going to have thousands of dollars worth of phones in a cart every day. Like, is there a place you're putting that securely and all that? And I'm not really even asking the question, but just, I would like this to be, as a parent and a school board member, as little work as possible on the teachers who already have so much during the day.
I agree.
To put this in place.
Yeah, our teachers start the day at 7:30 and end at 3. And I don't want a teacher leaving class early 10 minutes to 3 to distribute phones, nor do I want them to stay late to distribute phones. Nor do I want them to use either their planning or meeting time at 7:30 in the morning to do this.
Right.
Right. And I think one of the reasons that we really settled on this was that distraction time in the classroom, to give that time back. So we wouldn't want to take it away someplace else from them, right? We have not figured out all the logistics, and that's why I mockingly say we practice and figure it out, and we will, and it'll be messy, and it's going to be a little ugly, and that's also okay, and it won't be perfect. Nowhere in this is there some level of perfection,
right?
And that's also okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Jim.
Yeah, no, I just really want to compliment you on a job well done, and the plan is excellent and just so thoughtful. And I think we all, or at least most of us, have really seen the research that, kind of since cell phones became prevalent, our kids are suffering in big ways. And it's not just classroom distraction. I mean, the fact that it's throughout the day, it's interfering with social interactions, it's interfering with social development, just like honestly the ability to talk and pay attention. So for the developing mind, having as much cell phone free time as possible is a huge boon. So thank you very much.
Have you experienced a lot of pushback from students?
When we sent out the draft, we got 26 emails back, and maybe half of that was from students with some really good questions. I don't anticipate it being the most popular decision we've ever going to make, but really thoughtful questions. Some that have just been super helpful. I'm sure there'll be pushback, and that's also okay.
Yeah,
it just seems natural.
And then the forum is there an emphasis on just sort of providing information or problem solving?
Probably both. I really don't want anyone to be surprised by this.
Yeah,
is the way I'm thinking about it. And if we can use the rest of April, May, and June just to communicate, So, you know, unless you're transferring to us in August from out of state or, you know, even down the road, that would be new. But it shouldn't be new to anyone coming from eighth on up. And what our process will be like. I think our first day is usually an orientation day. And we'll walk through with students what that would be like. So again, on the first day of classes the next day, we're not taking a lot of time to do that. And we'll get faster at it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Bonnie and Scott.
In the plan that I saw, that teacher got in March. What is the rule about earbuds? Because that to me, like, as someone who likes to study with music, that's a no.
Yeah, we're gonna take earbuds out. But I think your computer has a port for the old fashioned.
Oh, so Bluetooth, no.
No
plug.
Bluetooth. Yeah, that's a nice
Okay.
way to say it.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. The process was a very well executed participatory process. And so I think it makes everyone's job easier when people feel heard. So thank you for doing that. I had sort of along the lines with what Jill was saying. It seems like the plan is really well crafted in a way that takes the burden off teachers, which I really appreciate. At the same time, it seems like it shifts a lot onto administrators. And yeah, I'm not asking for an answer, but just like, yeah, thinking about how that's going to impact the beginning and end of the school day for the folks who are actually doing the handoff. That seems like it's going to be tricky. And so, yeah, I wish you the best luck with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Matt McLean's here because we just scheduled, right? For
Yeah.
next year. Peggy Sue's here also, which is great. And you know, at the end of the day, I usually spend my end of the day in the lobby, right? And I'm saying goodbye to people. And there's not a lot of difference between saying goodbye and also them handing a phone at the end.
They'll like it that much more, right?
Right. Yeah, yes.
They'll be so happy
So
to
much
see
happier,
you.
right? Yeah, then we're not talking about parking tonight, Jill. We don't have, not tonight. Not tonight.
We didn't have cell phones and we made it. I'm not perfect, but we made it. So we can live without cell phones in high school. Okay.
I just had a really quick question because you provided a little additional context before. So is it my understanding then that the district is developing procedures for device-free schools and that would not involve a board action or okay.
Right.
And then that may change depending upon what the legislature does.
Yeah, or what the board decides to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's still your prerogative to write a policy. Any policy you write will say the administration will make procedures. So we're getting those started and giving us a good running start to practice. And as Jason said, and we can revise as we go with the procedures. So yes, it will be district-wide procedures that will primarily be emphasized in Main Street and Montpelier High School because it's not too much of a challenge at UES just yet. So hopefully we can nip that in the bud early.
Thank you, Jason. I really appreciate all the work on this end for the community who's been working with you. I think it's just a great example of the community kind of coming up with something organically. So really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Really
everybody.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
And Scott, your question was a good segue. I would say if we were going to, tonight would be a very good night for us to delegate to the policy committee, the writing of that policy, if we wanted to. As Libby said, it's our prerogative as a board. If we think it would be useful or necessary, we can ask that of the policy committee. The policy committee could also just decide to do it if that, that we don't have to ask. But those are two options we have before us.
I plan to raise it at the next policy meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Then moving right along to,
oh, yeah.
Well, we've been having this conversation. I'm in support of this policy because I've seen like the benefits of these policies in other schools. I think the data is very convincing and I'm a believer in being rational. But I've also noticed that a lot of times when we've been talking about this, there are a lot of jokes that are made about I think they're very well meaning, and a lot of times people are just trying to bring humor into this conversation, but when we say things like, I went to school in the 90s and sorry, Jill, use an example, but I know you can take it.
Totally fair.
I went to school in the 90s and I survived. Or like comments like that. A lot of times when I'm talking to other students about this, there's sort of this like us versus them mentality that's developing. And I think that the way to encourage students to find the upsides in this policy is really to try and limit that as much as possible. I know that students are not in control of this policy and we are the ones who, and us and the administration are the ones who are making it and who are the administration are the ones who are going to be enforcing it and they don't really have a choice. But, you know, their concerns about this policy are valid and they're not going to like everything about it. We're not going to like everything about it, and that's valid. Just because like our priorities in school and what we value might be different than yours. You know, I think this policy is right, but it doesn't mean that that's not valid too. And so I just think as much as we can avoid kind of dismissing students' concerns about this, even though I truly believe that it is well-intentioned every time we talk about it, I think it's going to really help students to be able to see this not as like an attack on their autonomy and more as something that is trying to help them learn. Does that make sense? I'm not totally sure I said that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I would like to say two things. So the Columbine High School shooting happened in 97. And before that happened, that was not a thing really that was part of our lexicon. And one of the biggest concerns now, which didn't exist when I was in high school, which is very real, are people's concerns, not just students, but parents, that if their student doesn't have their phone on them in high school or middle school, that they can't reach them. That is very real. And you're absolutely right. And I did not mean to make light of that. It is a different world. And I'm the first to admit that that is one of my fears as a parent. And yet I'm comforted in a dark way by remembering sitting doing a presentation at work while the swatting happened here and seeing on Facebook that 2 kids at Montpelier High School got shot. So it did not help in that situation, but you're absolutely right. And I do think that one of the biggest concerns we sort of breezed through tonight is parent and student concerns about not being able to reach them during the school day. And that's absolutely legitimate. The other thing I will say, since I'm on my high horse apparently, was if students had been taught or had learned or had decided to follow the instruction that has been in place for a long time here about putting your phone away in class, then we wouldn't have to now do this like district-wide piece, right? And I'm the first to say it, it's at work, my phone is very distracting, but students have been given an opportunity and the school has tried to put phone trees and phone buckets and all these ways to sort of self-monitor this. And what it did is some teachers were labeled like they were the rule followers and they would have to be the bad guys. And then some would get worn down and give up. So it created this very like inequitable treatment of and like use of the phones in the school. And so that put the teachers and the students, frankly, in it's almost like, well, mom said I could do it, but dad said I couldn't. And some of it's like, the teacher said I couldn't, but this teacher said I couldn't. So I do think it's important to remember that we have to implement this policy because we as an entity overall were not able to self-regulate this use of a phone. So if there's, there's no blame, this is a societal wide problem, but like we have been trying something else for a few years and it didn't work, right? Like we weren't able to succeed doing that. So I think this is where we're at and we have to, but you're absolutely right that it is a different universe we are living in. And I don't mean to make light of it because I'm going to be the one twitching to text my kid during the day and not being able to text her. Thank you for listening.
Oh, Jim had his hand up first.
Oh, okay, so Jim is in the body.
Yeah, I mean, One of the big benefits to me, obviously the distraction in class is huge, but the impacts to mental health and social development that we've seen with particularly teens since phones became kind of omnipresent is just, it's overwhelming, it's staggering, and it's really like, that's the most compelling part to me. And I think that's more than just putting your phone in a phone tree and coming in class. That is giving kids as much phone free time to really develop the social skills and the ability to navigate life without a phone. Because once those skills aren't being built, and and you add social media on top of that, and that's, there seems to be more and more causal links between like the much higher levels of anxiety that we're seeing in Gen Z, the much higher anxiety or levels of depression, kind of the inability to socially connect, the fewer friends, etc. And you really have like one time in life to develop those skills, and that's between about 0 and 18. So I really like, the data is so compelling, and I think even like even if it worked, I still think that extra step of taking phones out of the lunchroom, taking phones out of the hallways, taking phones out of the downtime, so you're talking to each other, you're having to interact. I think that the benefits of this are hopefully going to be huge.
Jill, I really liked your second point, because I feel like, when did the phone tree start? Was that 2 years ago? Last year? Yeah, I feel like I think that, if there was more consistency, like Jill said, like if every teacher had the same expectation, and it just like it got to a point where students just understood it and followed it, it wouldn't be like as big of a deal. But like even in my very few classes where like the expectation is you put your phone in the phone tree and like pretty much everyone does it, you still see those people like take their phone out when they go to the bathroom, which is like, you don't need your phone. And I really wish that the consistency was there, and I think it's not fair to the teachers, because it's not their job to be monitoring like people like doing it under the desk or like taking long hall breaks, but also like it's the students' responsibility to do their job, because now they're going to have a cell phone free day where they could just have their phone during lunch or during their hall time, and now they don't have that anymore, and they're like, well, they can't keep my phone, like what if my parent can't come and pick it up? They can't keep my phone. Like, yes, they can. And it's your job to like follow the teacher's instruction, because they're trying to teach you something way more important than where your phone should be. And I'll be in college, but I hope everyone else has fun with this next year.
Yeah, I think I'm very sensitive about the whole paternalistic angle.
That's a very good word.
I'm a 45-year-old dude who managed to make it through many years without becoming addicted to anything, but I would say that I'm probably addicted to my phone. I don't have nearly as interesting things to look at as you guys do. Like, what am I looking at? Sports scores, but why am I always doing that? I think that the students should know that we admire their courage in partnering on next year. Because it's a big deal. And I think it is gonna be good. But I think it could be hard too for a lot of kids. So I hope that there are ways that we can get student buy-in and engagement on it.
Yeah, quickly echo, I really appreciate Miriam, you raising the volume on the student voice in this conversation, because I know it was a part of the conversation, but it's an important component, and Jason, I would imagine that whatever you wind up landing at is going to be a living procedure and will change as you learn and as you hear, and if students have suggestions for ways to make it better for them, I'm that will be incorporated into future iterations.
I just add a couple? Joe, I appreciate it.
You should, we would like to hear, like, everybody online to hear it as well. Thanks, Jason.
Jill, I appreciate that you mentioned what year you graduated high school. And I graduated a few years before Jill. And the downside, going lower, and our high school had a smoking alley for students. Which was not uncommon. And yet today, I think we would think that would be really foolish to allow students to do that on a school campus. Years of research shows like how damaging cigarettes is, right? I know you all know that. And now the research is just showing how much damage phones can do. And I have a phone, I've been using it all night, right? My mom got into a car accident, and so here I am trying to figure that out. And the phone is a good tool. And I don't think we're arguing against the value of a cell phone. What we're trying to do, though, is really help students figure out when is the value and when it's not. And I don't think we would put a cigarette in your hand. And I think if we did, you'd probably be really mad, right? So as research is showing up, I think we can really look at what is the best thing for you. And I think anything that we try at the high school, we would listen to student voice. We know it's going to be super hard, Jake, in the beginning. And what's that look like? And I think our next steps is really to think about how do we support students through this process rather than just kind of cold-hearted. So.
No, I think one of the most encouraging parts of this is sort of the humility I heard in Jason's presentation. It like reminded me of Mr. Rosenberg, the whole try, fail, learn, repeat. So I actually think that's one of the reasons I'm most optimistic about this, hearing your willingness to hear all the voices and maybe pivot as needed. And so I really appreciate that approach that you've taken.
You know, what came out really clear from the student surveys wasn't the fact that you wouldn't have your phone. It was the safety question. How am I going to talk to my parents when something happens? And while we can't predict when there's an incident, but we can predict how we work with you prior, in, and after that incident, right? And support whatever is happening, just like a few Mondays ago in that incident at the end of the day, how we manage through that. So.
I just want to say thanks to all board members for a very thoughtful conversation about this, not just tonight, but as we've held it over the course of the year, and also the patience with board members, because we made the space for Jason and the community to do this process that has resulted in given us a really good result. And we'll continue to work through that process. I can't wait to hear how it's going. We are going to shift gears to the new item on the agenda, which is the legal agreement for the mass action lawsuit. Tim, since you pulled it off the agenda, why don't you kick us off with discussion?
And I don't want to belabor this or anything, but if there's nothing new, I think I'm going to oppose it, since it doesn't sound like we did a competitive bid for to retain counsel or evaluate other options before going with this one. I was nervous hearing that we hadn't yet identified what, if any, damages we'd suffered as a result of the action before going down this route. So I would prefer not to go down this course for those two reasons.
Okay.
Document that wasn't shared with student mentioning.
I think you shared it with I think everybody's got it.
Yeah.
And Libby emailed it the day after our last meeting. So that would have been March 20th, right? Was that our last meeting? Was the 19th?
Yeah, it was attached to something Anna sent around.
And then Anna also sent it in one of her second or third emails to the board in preparation for this meeting.
So they definitely fell into the Monday and boring category.
Yeah. Did we have our lawyer look at it?
Yes.
Okay, and was there advice from the lawyer about it?
Why not?
That's what was his response, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. He said it's not gonna hurt you and it could give you some money. I'm not being flip about it. Those were almost exactly his words.
Petra.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
But that sounds.
Any other comments? We could also, someone could make a motion and then we could discuss the motion
I'll make a motion to approve.
to approve. Can you say, let's say the full language, Jim, which was in Anna's,
Oh,
I'll just say it and then you can say so
yeah,
moved.
I'll make a motion to do what Jill read at the beginning of the meeting.
To approve the consent, to approve the legal services agreement with France Law Group for purposes of Power School data breach litigation.
Exactly.
So
I'll
Jim,
second that.
okay. Any more discussion? Yeah.
So I'm sorry, I'm slow on this. I didn't even see it really until the meeting, but Tim, can you say what your angle is again? Why you're concerned?
A couple reasons. When I guess I don't think of moving lightly into litigation and particularly in another state. And so I was concerned when I didn't hear that we had kind of thought through what, if any, damages we've suffered from this. My understanding was that they were minimal. And so the value of moving down this path seemed small. And the distraction could be, there's distraction from this kind of stuff when you're engaged in litigation. Again, probably not huge, but it's there.
So like, is this an accurate summary? Like potentially not much of a reward, but a lot of attention on the part of staff?
Potentially. I think probably the bigger one is typically, I think when we procure vendors, we go through a competitive process. That's something we do in the state. You go do an RFP or you do a bidding process. And I don't think, at least from the discussion last week, we had done that here. And so to the extent this is a substantial amount of money potential that would merit moving forward in this direction, one would think it would make sense to do a bid process and evaluate whether or not this one firm that approached us is the best course of action, or if some of the other, quick Google shows there's some class actions developing, there are other firms doing this, might have less of a burden and different rate structures. So again, I don't want to make I doubt this is like a huge thing, but just from a general policy of, going through due diligence before we procure vendors, that's why I hesitate.
I'll just say to clarify a point on the staff. This is my recollection from 2 weeks ago from what Mike shared with us, is that his take on it is it would not be very much staff time. And in fact, most of it they've already done, whatever there is going to be asked of us. That is my brain is not always 100% reliable, but I am remembering Mike saying along the lines of the amount of staff time that would be needed is minimal.
Has the district ever been part of a mass action lawsuit?
We have,
Yeah.
we were a part of the Jewel settlement that with vape, the vapes.
Oh, you're talking about Jewel the
E-cigarettes,
musician?
e-cigarettes, yeah.
JUUL.
No, okay.
Yeah, so we were part of a similar type of lawsuit against Jewel. That was won, and so we got a few $1,000s out of that, and we have vape sensors in our bathrooms because of it. And again, I had to fill out a survey. That was the amount of work I had to do for that one.
Just looking around the table, see if there's other questions or comments.
So, yeah, I read through the materials that Anna sent, and if I remember, and I'm not looking at it now, but if I remember correctly, there was some uncertainty about how much, like, we don't know what the litigation is gonna look like and what what Power School, or I can't remember the company that owns them, is going to do and there's the language was written clearly by a lawyer, right? It was very squishy about like potential effort needed by the whatever we are, the plaintiffs or complainants or whatever. And so, yeah, that was the piece that was a bit of a flag for me. Because yeah, anytime there's uncertainty in a legal document, that seems, again, from a lay perspective, a little concerning.
Read from the document, is that like a? Illegal or something? Okay, cool.
Not illegal.
Although we cannot say with certainty as each case is different, it is our best estimate that a district representative may need to devote no more than 5 to 8 hours of time to assist with the lawsuit. This time will consist of helping to draft responses to written questions from defendants' attorneys and or the court, gather relevant documentation, and review a final version of responses to questionnaires for filing with the court. Unlike other litigation that your district may have previously been involved in, we do not anticipate that any district representative will be deposed or have to appear in court. I feel like that seems clear to me. Obviously I'm not in administration or a lawyer, but
Yet.
5 to 8 hours answering a survey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
and
seems
Jake, as Miriam was reading that, I was we're also currently part of a PCB litigation. We just haven't done anything with it, so I forget that we're part of it.
like I know there's some vagueness there, but it's not that much.
Any other questions? Or discussion? Okay, so there's a motion on the table. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? And one
Whatever.
one abstention?
Between I and A.
A. Okay. Motion passes. All right, thank you, everyone. We'll be moving to policy monitoring next. We have policy monitoring reports for policy C28, transgender and gender nonconforming students, D22, selecting library materials, and D7, special education. Why don't we move those all as one, and then if somebody wants to pull one out, we can do that.
I move that we approve the policy monitoring group.
Second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, everyone. We are not moving to adjourn. However, I believe our next agenda item starts right at 8:30. So we have
13 minutes.
a recess of 13 minutes, 17 minutes. Why don't we just take a break, but we do need to officially move into executive session for that. Not super comfortable moving into executive session and then recessing. So why don't we recess, be back here at 8:23, so 10 minutes from now, and we will move into executive session and then move ourselves into room 126.
Don't give us time to move our chairs.
Yeah, we can move chairs now. We can move chairs now. You can get water, you can use the bathroom, stretch your legs. But be back in this room to be able to officially move into executive session in 10 minutes. And Amani, you can go home. Yeah. MRPS board, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move we go into executive session for the purposes of a hearing.
Second now.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, let's actually bring these